That way everyone can see who's talking. All right, everyone. So we're going to go ahead and begin. And today we are going to go over, let me just make this larger. Okay, very good. So let's go ahead and start. We're going to be talking about lead generation basics, right? Lead gen basics. Now, I want to give you guys a breakdown of what we're going to be covering today and kind of a roadmap of what to expect. First and foremost, as I was putting this together, the idea initially was how do I put together a list of all the different ways and all the sources an agent, a realtor, can generate leads for their business. And I came up with like a long laundry list of 200 different things. The downside to that was, well, the upside to that was you now had an entire list of all the different things that you could do. But the downside was I wasn't really able to provide much insight or go in depth with each one simply because it would have taken way too long. So what I did was, for our topic today, we're just going to be covering a few lead generation strategies, the ones that I'm really good at, the ones that I utilize in my business, and they're geared towards newer agents or agents who don't necessarily want to go out and spend thousands of dollars in marketing money, right? So that's what we're going to be covering. After we finish this, I would love to hear from everyone sitting here and everyone that's online what sort of lead gen strategies and tactics and methods they're using and what's worked well for them. All right, so we can go ahead and start. And initially, we're just going to go over some key concepts that'll help you understand the importance of lead generation, what it is, so on and so forth. And then we're going to get into the actual meat and potatoes. So lead generation, before we begin, and anyone tell me what does it mean to generate leads? What is lead generation? I mean, it's kind of obvious from the name, but anyone want to expound on what they think lead generation may be? Customers, yeah, potential clients, customers. Basically, how do we speak and get in touch with more clients and more customers? Is that right?
Yeah, by communication and get to know them.
Exactly. Yep. Yep. Wonderful. Okay. So as you guys know, that lead gen is the lifeline of your business. In other words, if you don't have any leads, you don't have any clients, you don't have any customers, therefore you're not going to have any closings. If you want closings, you have to be constantly generating leads all the time. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So moving forward, what exactly is lead gen? Lead gen is simply about getting people's attention and having a conversation about real estate. More conversations, the more closings, right? That is as simple as I can put it. The more people you speak to on a daily basis about real estate, the more closings you're going to eventually have, right? If you go weeks and weeks without speaking to new people about real estate, eventually you're going to see that your pipeline is completely dry. You're not going to have any closings. Why? Because you're simply not having enough conversations. So at the heart of it, lead gen is all about having as many conversations with as many people as possible, right? And the more conversations, the more closings. Always keep that in mind. The more people I speak to, the more closings I'm going to have. When I first got into the business, our trainer, so I was with White, and they have like a 4-week course for new agents. It was a great course. And the agent that was teaching it, he's like, you got to understand that this is a contact sport. In other words, you have to be constantly going out, contacting and meeting and speaking to people. You can't be a secret agent. If you want to be a secret agent, you sign up for the FBI. But you're a real estate agent, then you have to make yourself as publicly visible as possible. So that is one of the downsides. If you're someone who is, I don't want to use the word extroverted, but if you're someone who really values your privacy, this business is all about being public and open and accessible and reachable, right? So keep that in mind. Moving forward. Now, when you're talking about lead gen, we want to kind of get to know the terminology. What exactly is a lead, right? And this is very important because too many agents think a lead is someone who's going to sign the contracts right here and right now. Too many agents think, oh, if I just had 10 leads, I'm going to have 10 closings. That's never the case. Most of the time, you have 100 leads and you get only one closing, right? So, what is a lead? A lead is someone who expresses interest in engaging in a real estate transaction, right? And number two is yet to be determined if they are ready, willing, and capable, right? So I could go to the park today, my kids are playing, and the guy sitting next to me, we just start talking. He says, yeah, I've been thinking about selling my home. That guy's a lead, right? I don't know when they're going to be ready. I don't know if they're actually capable of selling and how willing or motivated they are. All I know is that they've expressed some sort of interest in a real estate transaction, right? So that's the lead. Now you get all different types of lead, and we're going to get into that. But if you can remember this one point, it's going to help you a lot. Because again, too many agents think, oh, if I just had, enough leads, my business will be out of the roof. Or sometimes agents think a lead is someone who's going to be a lead is a guaranteed closing. And then they do one open house, they get 5 leads, and they think, okay, I have 5 leads. I just need to close 5 deals for the rest of the year, and I'm good. But again, lead conversion is very, very minimal. If you have 100 leads, depending on what the source is, you may only get 5 to 10 closings, right? So if you have 5 leads coming in from an open house, you may have 1 or even 0 closings. So keep that in mind. That's why you need to be constantly generating new leads so you have new people to speak to, right? Because not every single lead is gonna translate into a closing. So that's why you always need to be generating leads, new leads every single day, every single week. Now we want to get into prospecting versus marketing. When we talk about lead gen, there's different ways of generating leads. One way is prospecting, and the other way is marketing. So think of it like this. When you go hunting, right, you're like actively stalking and following an animal. And then you shoot it, and that's hunting. Whereas fishing, you throw the fishing line or you throw the net and you wait patiently. That's the difference between prospecting and marketing. Prospecting is you're going out there, you're making outbound communication, whether it's text messages, direct messages on Facebook, whatever the case, whether it's door knocking, cold calling, networking, whatever the case, prospecting is you putting yourself in front of someone else's face, trying to get their attention. Whereas marketing is the exact opposite. You're just throwing out a net, a billboard, a Facebook ad, and you're patiently waiting while people come to you. All right. Now, there are pros and cons. Prospecting is proactive and usually requires more time and less money. If you go door knocking, it's going to take you maybe an hour to knock on 15 doors, right? Depending on how slow you walk. But it's not really going to cost you much money. On the other hand, marketing is reactive, where you throw out a net and you wait. And it usually requires less time, but more money, right? If you want to put up a billboard, it's probably going to cost you $5,000 a month, depending on where you put it and how much traffic there is. But you spend an initial time to design the billboard. And once it's up, then it's up. And you don't have to do anything about it. Then you just have to make sure people who are calling, you're taking their information, you're converting it. So that's the difference between prospecting and marketing. And for today, what we're really going to be focusing on is prospecting. Because it's very easy for someone to just take $10,000 and dump it into a bunch of Zillow leads or Facebook leads or Google leads. We're not talking about that, right? We're talking about how you can build up your database, how you can generate more leads using your time and not necessarily having to spend a bunch of money. All right. So now let's talk about lead quality. Lead sources often determine lead quality. In other words, the way or the source of the lead, where the lead is coming from. Is the lead coming from an open house? Is the lead coming from a past client? Are they referring a friend to you? Or is the lead a Facebook, someone that you're getting from Facebook, right? You throw out a Facebook ad and someone is on their lunch break and they're just mindlessly, going through their Facebook and they see a picture of a nice house. They have no intention of buying, no intention of selling. They just, they're just trying to pass time and they say, oh wow, this house looks nice. Let me click on it, right? So the source of the lead, where the lead is being generated from, you can get an idea of the quality of the lead. What do we mean about quality? High quality leads are leads that can be closed within 90 days. These are people that are ready to go. They are willing, able, and ready, right? They have the finances, they have the motivation, and they're capable of doing so, right? They're capable of taking action. Whereas low quality leads are people who may not be willing, may not be capable, and may not be ready. And usually their time frame is very, very far out, right? Someone may call and be like, yeah, I'm ready to sell, but 12 months from now, right? So that's how you can get an idea of what a high quality lead is versus a low quality lead. All right, now we're going to talk a little bit about lead gen and lead conversion. What is the difference? So you generate the leads. But then just because you have, let's say you do an open house and you get 20 people coming into your open house, it was a fabulous, fantastic open house. You generated 20 leads through the open house. But again, just because you generated 20 leads doesn't mean you're guaranteed 20 closings. Now you have to take those leads and you have to convert it, right? In order to convert the leads to actual clients and closings, you must follow up. And you have to follow up aggressively and constantly and consistently, right? Most leads require multiple follow-ups and months of nurturing, right? Till now, I have people that have been in my database, that have been leads in my database from 2 years ago, and we're still reaching out to them, and they're raising their hand. Now we're finally ready, right? So again, don't fall into this mindset that I'm just going to generate leads today, and then these 5 leads are going to, last me for the next 2-3 months. Lead gen and lead conversion is a daily thing for agents, right? I know you want to focus on, delivering the best customer service, and you want to do everything right, so on and so forth. But this is your job. Lead gen and lead conversion is your job. The day you do not do lead gen and lead conversion, the days you do not prospect and follow up, those are the days you're not working, right? So if someone asks you, how many days a week do you work? The way you answer that is however many days you do follow up and prospect. So if you prospect and follow up 5 days a week, that means you work 5 days a week. But if every single day you're just running around, in between appointments or admin work or, checking your emails or posting stuff on Facebook, but never actually prospecting, never actually following up, you're not working. You can be as busy as you want, but you're not doing what you need to do in order to sustain and grow and keep your business running. All right? So that's that. Okay, and I'm going to emphasize this one more time. The more conversations you have, the more closings you're going to have. Speak to as many people as possible. Now, obviously, that comes with knowing how to speak, what to say, when to say it, and how to deliver your pitch, right? And that's a whole different topic. But the point is, more conversations equals more closings. So if you want to do something, if you want to just track, right? As simple as just every morning grabbing a piece of paper and making and tracking how many conversations you have on a daily basis. And then at the end of the week, check how many conversations you have. And that's going to give you an idea of the health of your business. If at the end of the week, you see that you've only had 2 conversations, then you gotta ask yourself, how can I have more conversations, right? But at the end of the week, if you see that you've had 50, 60 conversations, then that's a good indication, because those conversations are then gonna lead to more closings. And then once you get good at tracking, you can then determine, all right, it takes me 50 conversations to generate one appointment, and then it takes me 4 appointments to generate one closing, right? But it starts with tracking your numbers. So start by tracking how many conversations you're having on a day-to-day basis about real estate with new people, right? If you're talking to the same person every single day, that only counts as one person, right? Yeah, we're talking about speaking to new people and new conversations, all right? Okay, so now we get to the exciting part. What is the big picture here? The way your business should look is 1/3 of your business should be coming from your database, 1/3 of your business from listing oriented prospecting, like where you're going out and you're soliciting business, and specifically for listings, right? And 1/3 of your business should be from online lead generation. For today, we're really just going to be focusing on how to build up your database and how to go out and prospect, right? We're not talking about online lead gen. That's a whole different story. And then the big goal over here is increase your referrals and decrease time and money needed to generate new leads, right? So you want to get to a point where 70 to 80% of your business is coming from your database. Why do we want to do that, right? Because the leads that come from your database are going to be warm leads or hot leads, right? If I have a friend, right? If let's say Ahmed is my real estate agent, he sold me a home or he sold my home, and I have a friend Ken. Ken's on the market. I say, Ken, I had a really good experience with my agent. I think you should really get in touch with him before you speak to anyone else. Ken already has it in his mind that, hey, this guy's really good. He helped one of my friends. He can help me as well. Now Ken is reaching out to you. You don't have to go out of your way and really pitch yourself and really sell yourself, right? You're in a position where that trust and rapport is already built, right? Someone else is vouching for you, right? Word of mouth, referral. As opposed to Ken browsing through online and he sees you somewhere online, whether it's Zillow, whether it's Facebook, Realtor.com, whatever the case. There's no connection. He has no other information than a picture of you and your name, right? He doesn't care if he lets you down, right? So the reason why we want to generate as many leads from our database is because those leads are warm leads and usually hot leads. When a friend refers another friend, those leads come in very hot, very strong. So the idea is to not get rid of prospecting and not to get rid of online leads, but to get to a point where 70 to 80% of your business is coming from your database. Those leads are going to be the warmest leads and they're going to be the most cost-effective leads, right? And then keep the rest of your leads from, prospecting and online leads, right? So that's the big goal over here. And to get to that, it takes time, right? You don't start your real estate career and then in 6 months or 1 year, you get to this position. It can take you 3, 4, 5 years to get to this position, right? And even when you do, that's why I said not to get rid of. You never want to get rid of, the prospecting, and you never want to get rid of the online leads, right? My opinion is you always want to have those two, right? Because the online leads and the outbound prospecting is what's going to continuously grow your database. And then eventually what we're going to get into is how to market to your database, right? Okay, so now we're talking about a few strategies that we can use in order to grow your database. Because you could be a new agent and you don't have anyone in your database, right? Or you could be a seasoned agent, but you've never really taken the time to grow your database. So we want to build up our database and be intentional about marketing to our database and staying in front of them so we get those leads, so we get those referrals. But the question is, how do we build up our database? So the first strategy that we want to go over is the open house strategy, all right? And I want to pick this part apart a little bit. So first and foremost, when we talk about open houses, sometimes agents think that the purpose of an open house is to sell the property that I'm doing an open house on. That's never the case, right? The chances of a property selling because of the open house is very, very nominal. It's very minimal. The purpose of the open house is, at least your purpose of the open house should be to meet new leads, to speak to the homeowners, the neighboring homeowners, and meet new buyers, right? That's the purpose of the open house. And yes, when you do an open house, it definitely does create more exposure. It definitely does create a sense of anticipation and urgency. So if there are buyers who are thinking about putting in an offer for the open house, for the property, they're going to want to do so quicker or sooner than later. But first and foremost, you want to start by picking the right property, right? I'll give you an example. If you don't like to drive, let's say you live in Sickleville, and Burlington is 40 minutes away, and you don't want business where you have to drive 40 minutes away, then you shouldn't really be doing an open house over there, right? Because if you do an open house there, you're going to get buyers and homeowners who are in that area. So first and foremost, pick the right property. Pick a property in an area where you want to do more business, number one. Number two, pick the property that's in the right price range. Number three, pick a property that is move-in ready and good condition, right? Why? Because you want as many people coming into the open house as possible. You don't want to, do an open house on a property that's been sitting on the market for, 85 days. You want to do an open house on a property that's new on the market, that's in great condition, great location, in the right price point of, your desired prospecting. What's the name? In the price range you want to do more business in, right? And one thing I want to mention about that is doing an open house on the highest price listing, maybe $1 million, $2 million, is always the right thing to do. Because you got to understand that in South Jersey or in this area, or wherever you are, if your average sales price is 300 or 350, that's where you're going to get the most amount of people. If you do an open house on a $2 million property, you may get a few people, and realistically, how many of those people are able to buy that property? They may just be walking through, So you want to do, you want to pick a property where you're going to get a decent amount of people coming in. All right. Now we've picked the right property. You want to post it on social media everywhere you can. Post it on your personal Facebook, personal profile. Tag as many people. Every time I post some stuff, I tag Ken, and then Ken shares it. Right? You can tag your mortgage people, whoever. If you're doing an open house in Voorhees, then share it in the Voorhees Facebook group, right? Put up as many yard signs. So keep this in mind. If you're doing an open house, the yard signs that you're putting up are like mini billboards, right? The yard signs that you're putting up are like mini billboards. So you don't want to just go with the cheapest yard sign. You want to go with the yard sign that looks nice, where if people are driving by, it's easy to see. I've had, I've had closings from leads that called me because of my yard sign, right? Not because, it's easy to read. That's the point. They were driving. They're like, hey, can you tell me more about this open house? They never came to the open house, but I was able to capture their information, right? So if you just put up some generic open house sign, it doesn't have your information, doesn't have your name, there's no way to contact you, you're losing out on business. So you want to get yard signs that has your information, right? And you may want to intentionally put a few yard signs that lead nowhere, because then people will call you and be like, hey, where the heck is the property? Now you have the information, right? All right. Next is text and email it to prospective clients. Let's say, we're going back to following up. Let's say, you've been in touch with a buyer or a seller. But yeah, let's say you've been in touch with a buyer, and there's no real movement. You need an excuse to now follow up. Like, I'll give you an example. We did an open house 2 months ago on a property, and this family came by and they're like, hey, we're in the initial stages, we're in the preliminary stages, right? We don't really have a time frame in mind. We need to sell our property. We own two properties. We have to sell our property, and then we want to buy, right? So I've been reaching out to them almost every single week. It's been 2 months, right? And I've gotten to the point where I'm like, what do I ask them now? Like, hey, when are you going to be ready? They already told me that, they don't have any sort of definitive timeline. And if you follow up with the same lame text, like, hey, or same message, hey, what's the situation, right? They're eventually going to start ignoring you. So you need to get creative and follow up in ways that you're providing benefit. So what you can do is, if you're doing an open house, you can use that open house as an excuse to follow up with leads. So what I did was, we were having an open house, so I reached out to that lead and I said, hey, we're having an open house. It's in the same area that you're looking in. Why don't you come by? Again, it just gave me an excuse to reach out and text that person. So use the open house as an excuse to follow up with people and convert them. All right. And then this is probably the most important thing. Speak to the neighbors and invite them. Right. This is the main reason why you're doing the open house. You are doing the open house to speak to the homeowners in the neighborhood, right? Print out an open house invitation. Print out information about the property, and use that as an excuse to go and knock on someone's door and say, hey, listen, I'm not soliciting you. I am inviting you to our open house. Can you come by and join us, right? How does the script for that go? And this works really well. About 6 months ago, or actually no, last year around this time, I had a listing in Voorhees, and a few days before the open house, I went and knocked on all the doors on that block. I probably knocked on like 20 doors, and there was this one guy. It was still like COVID then, right? So there was one guy. I knocked on his door. He opened the door. He opened his door, but he didn't open the storm door. And he's like, don't talk to me, just throw me the paper and leave, because it's COVID, right? So I gave him the open house invite, and I just left. I just told him, hey, we're having an open house, come by. He called me 8 months later, and he's like, I want to sell my property, can you come in, tell me what needs to happen. So I met up with him like a month ago, and now we're preparing his property to come up on the market, right? But again, doing an open house gives you now the opportunity to go and speak to the homeowners. So what kind of script are you going to be using? When you go there, you knock on the door, say, you want to start off by introducing yourself. Hey, my name is Marshad, I'm with eXp Realty. I just wanted to take a quick minute of your time, let you know that this upcoming Sunday, we're hosting an open house on 123 Main Street, just a few doors down from you. I wanted to personally invite you to come by, take a look, and in case you know any friends or family who may be interested in moving, please let them know. I'm sure you'd love to have one of your friends or family hopefully move in as your neighbor, and that's it. And then you can ask them, do you think you'd be able to come by? They may say, yeah, maybe not. Well, why don't you come by and take a look and tell us what you think about the property. And then from there, I started asking questions. I have the property listed for $450. Do you think it'll sell for $450? Some of them are going to be like, yeah, that's a really good price. Some of them say, no, I don't think so. And then from there, you ask them questions like, well, how long have you lived in this neighborhood? Oh, nice, 10 years. What brought you here? Where you? And again, you're not interrogating them. You're just having a friendly dialogue. Oh, nice. Hey, you've lived here for 10 years. If we sell that property for $450, do you have any thoughts of selling? And that's where you can get the conversation moving, right? But again, the nice thing about knocking on doors is you're able to speak to someone face to face, and you're able to read their body language, right? If you have someone opening the door and just literally sticking their head out, they don't want to engage in a conversation. So you make it quick and you leave. On the other hand, if someone is like friendly with you and talking to you and engaging in a conversation with you, that's your opportunity to now build that rapport and trust, right? So that's why door knocking is very nice. So you want to use your open. Normally, you don't just go door knocking. People are like, what are you doing here, right? But with an open house, you have a reason to knock on someone's door. So open house strategy, right? And then we can get into more about, what do you do when people come to the open house? How do you collect their information? What do you do moving forward? That, in order to get into details of that, it's going to take too much time. But initially, this is just the overall open house strategy. Okay, now we're going to get into social media strategy. The nice thing about social media is if you have call reluctance, if you don't like to make phone calls, or sometimes you get nervous of meeting people up front, so social media is good. And what ends up happening with social media is that people see you, and then you've never met them before, but it's like you kind of know them. Like this brother here, right? I've never met him before. He's never met me, but we've had each other on Facebook. So when he came in, I'm like, I know your face, right? And he's like, yeah, I know your face as well. So that's the nice thing about social media. It's like an icebreaker, right? So here's a social media strategy. Add anyone you think you may know, right? When you go on Facebook, it's going to say recommended friends. If you think you know them, just add them. So long it doesn't look weird, right? Like, you're a married man and now you add like a 19-year-old girl and you're 40, right? Don't do that. Like, use your brain. Message them after you add them, right? Say, hey, thanks for accepting my friend. Thanks for accepting my friend request. I'm pretty sure I know you from somewhere. I'm pretty sure I know you from somewhere. But whatever the case, hopefully I run into you again, sometime down the road. Something as basic as that, right? Just send them a message. And when you send them a message, you don't want to tell them, hey, thanks for adding me on my real estate. Do you have any business? No, that's too quick. You just want to send them a message, say, hey, thanks for adding me. I'm pretty sure I know you from somewhere, or we have some mutual friends. Whatever the case, hopefully we'll get a chance to meet sometime soon. Simple, right? You're not asking for anything. You're just being nice and polite. You're introducing yourself. All right. And then the thing about social media, it's a double-edged sword. You can be productive on it, but at the same time, it's a huge time waster if you're not mindful. So what you can do is you can set a timer, 15 minutes, and then go on social media and do all this. And then once your 15 minutes is up, you tell yourself, all right, my social media time is up. Right? But during those 15 minutes, you're going through your feed and you're liking and commenting on people's posts. Right? If you're never liking or commenting on people's posts, you're not engaging with them. Right? And then on your end, you have to start posting as well. So for every one business post, you want to post at least 2 or more personal things, right? Here's the thing, people do business with people because they know, like, and trust you. And social media is a nice way to showcase and display who you are, what you like to do. So when people go on your social media, you can try this out. If you post up, hey, I'm doing an open house today or next week, you're gonna get maybe 4 likes, 5 likes. But you post up a picture of, hey, check out my cat, you're gonna get 30 likes, right? Because people go on social media not to look at business, they go on social media to look at other people's lives. So for every one business post, hey, I just had a closing today, or check out my new listing, check out this new open house, or here's the tip of the day, whatever the case. You want to make sure you have 2 or more personal posts, right, or personal stories. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. It could just be like you're going out for a walk, and you take a picture of, look at the beautiful scenery, look at this beautiful park I'm taking a walk in. Something as simple as that, right? And then here is the golden nugget. Create a group. Figure out a group you can put together and create a group and invite everyone you know into that group. And use that group just to show your face, right? You don't put anything business related in that group. So what I did was I created a food group, a halal restaurant in South Jersey group. We started with like 20 people, and now we have almost 400 people. I like to go eat out. So every time I go eat out, I take a bunch of pictures. I eat out and then I post it in that group. Right? What happened after I created that group? My friend list went from 400 to now 600. Not everyone in the group is my friend, but many people added me as their friend. But it gives me an opportunity to post on that group almost every single week, and they start seeing my face over and over and over again. And it's not it has nothing to do with business because the food is, I mean, the group is food related. So I'm just putting in, food stuff. And people who already know me, again, they see me again. People who don't know me, I become familiar, right? So go out and create a Facebook group. You could be into martial arts, create a martial arts group, right? You could be into biking or whatever the case. Put together a Facebook group, and again, why? Because people are going to want to do business with people they know, like, and trust, people that they have similarities with, right? So create a group, get people who are interested in the same thing, and use that as an icebreaker to get to know them, right? So that's that. Okay, and then the last thing we want to talk about, and then we're going to get into our our database is networking events. So networking events are going to be investor clubs, right? SJREI, South Jersey Real Estate. What does it stand for?
Yeah, I think that's wrong. I think it's IE.
Yeah. South Jersey Real Estate Investors. I added an E, so there's no E. Bigger pockets, right? If you're looking for cash buyers, that's the place you want to go, right? Chamber of Commerce. Chamber of Commerce is nice because it's basically where all the small businesses get together, right?
You were right. South Jersey Real Estate Investors.
Okay, cool.
Sorry.
No problem. Facebook. You can go on Facebook and look at all the different local events they're having, right? Maybe there's events in your community. Eventbrite, another website. You can go on and check all the local events that are happening. Gyms, right? You go to a gym. It's a nice way to meet different people, right? Again, use your brain. Places of worship. Again, an opportunity to network. So here's the biggest thing. When you're going to these places, keep in mind that you are not going there to pick up a client right there and right then, right? Same thing with the open house. When people come to an open house, you're not trying to convince them to work with you right there, right then. If a buyer comes, you're not telling them, oh, sign this document and sign that document. You're just creating a first impression. Likewise, with networking events, your job is to create a good first impression, collect their information, and then build your relationship on that first impression, right? You go to a networking event. Imagine you go to a networking event, and two people go, right? You and your friend goes. Your friend is going to the networking event with the idea of, hey, I'm going to hand out my business card to everyone, and I'm going to tell them what I do, and I'm going to ask them if they have any business for me, right? On the other hand, you go to the networking event with the idea of, I'm going to get to know as many people, find out about what they do, collect their information, and set a good impression, right? Who do you think is going to walk away, or in the long run, get actually more business? It's going to be the person who goes to networking events with the idea of creating relationships and setting a good impression, right? Likewise, you go to the gym, you go to the place of worship. You're not going to go and harass people. Hey, here's my business card. If you have any business for me, let me know. You want to start off by setting and creating a good impression, building that relationship, right? And then from there, people reach out to you. So I'll give you an example of the gym. So I go to the gym, and I go to a CrossFit gym. So it's a small group of people. We have group classes, so on and so forth. And I started adding them on Facebook, and now I go there, and almost everyone knows, hey, this is the real estate guy, right? So that's how you want to do it. You want to use networking events to create a good first impression, and then build from there on, right?
Sammy, can I give an example?
Yeah.
So I think this is the most important. when I was a full-time realtor for about 12 years, and I didn't do networking. And I was going, getting by. But when I got into this business title, it's all about networking. That's my job. For the first 3.5 years, I was out 4 or 5 nights a week networking with people. And like Sammy said, with social media, I was putting everywhere I was going. I mean, I could start here in Cherry or Marlton at 9 in the morning, and then go to Philly, and then go to Westchester, and then back over to Jersey. But I was posting everywhere I was going, and it got to the point where people would say, "I know you're everywhere. Where's your location?" But we see you, at all these events. So networking is huge, and I just sent another book on the app. It's called "Networking is a Contact Sport," and I got my copy of that book from John Clady, who is a big deal at Keller.
Oh, yeah.
When I knew John, he was just running a team. Now he's like a regional, VP for Keller Williams, and that's how he built his business through networking. It's a pretty good book.
Excellent. All right. Yeah. So networking is very powerful because again, networking, you get to meet people face to face. And usually when you're networking, especially if it's like, Chamber of Commerce, like other businesses, these are clients that are going to be repeat clients, usually. So anyway, let's move on. So we just covered all the different ways you can build your database. So what is the ultimate goal? The ultimate goal, or not the ultimate goal, but the eventual goal is to get 300 contacts in your database and then categorize them, right? Or ideally, you should be categorizing your contacts as you're putting them in. But you want to get to that 300. Why? Because 300 is like the perfect number. And we'll go into who a contact is and what I mean by categorizing them. But if you have a database, right? A database meaning somewhere you're putting your CRM, right? You have to have a CRM as an agent, right? The people on your contact list it doesn't count. That's not a CRM. A CRM is a place where you can put in people's information, and you can create tasks and assignments to follow up with them and create notes on them, right? It's like a roster of business, right? So once you get to I would say even 200, once you have 200 contacts in your database and you're strategically marketing to them and staying in touch with them, that's when you're going to see consistent referrals coming in, right? But prior to that, you're still going to get referrals, but it may not be as consistent, and it may not be as much. So you want to aim to have 300 people, 300 contacts, and we'll go over what a contact is, and you want to categorize them accordingly. So who is a contact? A contact is someone you have their name, you have their number, you have their email address, and you have some background info about them, right? Let's say I go to a networking event, I meet Ken, and Ken gives me his business card. I have his name, I have his number, I have his email address, I have some background info about him. He's a title guy, and I met him in an XYZ event, right? Now Ken goes into my CRM, and he's a contact, right? If you just have someone's name but no way to contact them, they're not really a contact because now there's no way you can follow up with them. There's no way you can, build and further that relationship, right? Likewise, if you have, if you have their name, number, and email address and no background info about them, it's not really a contact because you have no idea who they are, right? A contact is someone, their name, number, email address, some background info about them. And what I'd like to actually include is they know you as well, right? They know you as well. So it's not some, random person. Okay, so now you have, people in your database. And if you're a new agent, that's what you should be aiming for. If you're a new agent, within the first 3 months of your business, try to have 25 contacts in your CRM. You have their name, you have their number, maybe you have their email address, right? Sometimes people don't give out their email address. But you have your name, phone number. They know you and you know them, right? Within the first 3 months of your business, aim to have at least 25 people, 25 contacts in your database, in your CRM. Okay, now how do you go about categorizing them? So you want to categorize people by how likely they are willing to refer you, right? So an A contact is going to be someone who is highly likely to refer you. Your best friend, they love you and they want to see you succeed. And anytime, they hear someone talking about real estate, they're going to say, you have to contact my friend. That's A contact, right? What about a B contact? A B contact is someone, they like you, they know you, but it's never crossed their mind that they should be referring you to other people, right? And you just need to sit down with them one day and say, hey, or maybe you're talking over the phone and say, hey, listen, if you know anyone I can help, because I am a real estate professional, I am a real estate consultant. If you know anyone that's thinking of buying or selling and I can help them with their purchase, get me in contact with them. Would you be okay with just, introducing me to them or introducing them to me? That's it. Maybe they just need to be shown, or you just need to be told that, hey, this is how it's completely acceptable and you appreciate referrals. And then a C category person or C category client is someone who is willing to refer you once they get to know you better, right? Like I just met Ken. He doesn't know me. I don't really know him. But I know Ken's, I need to build my relationship with Ken before he can get into the B category or the A category. So once you have your contacts categorized, and I just made this up, and you can categorize your contacts however you want, but this is the general idea. You want to be, so when you have, after you categorize your contacts, people who are in your A list, you want to be in touch with them all the time. People who are in my A list, I make sure that I get in front of them once a quarter. So that means 4 times a year, right? So 4 times a year, they're getting a text message from me, or a call from me, or we're getting together for coffee or lunch. That's aside from the times that they see me on Facebook. That's aside from the times when we run into each other, like, or wherever else. It's aside from the times that they get all the emails from me, right? So they're getting emails. They're seeing me on Facebook. We're running into each other in the community, but at the same time, I'm proactively reaching out to these people because these people are willing to refer me to their friends and family, and I want to stay on top of mine, right? What about the B people? For the B people, I make sure that I reach out to them. What's the name? Once every 6 months, right? They just need a small reminder, right? And then the C people, they'll once they get to know you a little bit better, right? For those people, then you got to be a little bit more strategic, right? Like if I met Ken 2 weeks ago, I'm probably gonna reach out to him and be like, hey, Ken, it was great meeting you at the networking event. I'd love to grab coffee with you to learn more about what you do, and hopefully we can figure out a way to work together, right? So that's the idea behind your database strategy, right? And then we can talk more about, at a different time, what sort of emails you should send, what sort of emails you should be sending out, what type of things you can post on social media, what kind of text messages you can send them, how do you stay on top of mind? But this is a general idea, all right? And now we're going to wrap it up. This is what it boils down to. You have to be consistent, right? Like I said, you can't lead gen, you can't prospect and follow up once a week and expect your business to take off. You have to be consistent. You have to try to lead, prospect, and follow up every single day, every single working day. So if you're working Monday through Friday, then Monday through Friday, you want to be following up and generating leads, right? Education is super important. Just because you have your real estate license means nothing, right? If you get your real estate license, you come out and you're like, I have no idea how to put together a deal. I have no idea what contracts look like, right? You want to continuously educate yourself. You want to attend as many training classes as possible. You want to learn from other agents. The fact that you guys are here is a really good sign, right? You want to read as many books as possible. You want to listen to as many podcasts as possible, right? Learn from people who have already done it or are doing it. Practice, right? Practice, practice, practice. Especially when it comes to prospecting, you're speaking to new people. If you don't ever speak to people, if you never engage with people, you're never getting that practice, right? You want to practice, you're going to mess up, but just continue. And then patience. All this is going to take time, right? It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen over 6 months. It's probably going to take years and years for you to build up to get to a position where you're happy. And then finally, I want to end off by recommending some really good books. First is Fanatical Prospecting. So Fanatical Prospecting, that's actually the book that we're reading in our reading club now. Ahmed, did you start? Not yet. What about you?
I can start on YouTube, though.
Okay.
I'm just listening.
Yeah. I'm listening to it as well.
When I'm in the car, I'm listening.
Yeah.
Right there.
No, that's what I do.
Yeah, chapter 3.
Good. How do you like it so far?
Good.
Yeah.
Very motivational. I like it a lot.
Yeah. So this book is really gonna help out a lot. In fact, Ken, well, I don't know if you
I know.
Yeah.
That's how long we've been working together.
Yeah, I think when I first met Ken, probably like 5 years ago, he's like, "Hey, you should check out this book. It's good." Exactly what to say. That's another really nice book. Exactly what to say is basically a book on different phrases, right? How do you say the right thing to the right person, right? One of the nice things one of the phrases that I really like to use is he asks, instead of saying, "Hey, would you like to meet up with me?" or "Would you like to do this?" or XYZ, he says, "How open-minded are you about doing this?" Because no one likes to think of themselves as closed-minded. Everyone likes to think they're open-minded, right? So exactly what to say is a nice book. The Book of Yes. The Book of Yes is all about dialogue and scripts. Because if you're speaking to people, if you're door knocking, if you're making phone calls, you want to know what to say to people, how to have a conversation, right? The right questions to ask. So the Book of Yes is actually just a book. It's a bunch of different scripts. What to say, what kind of dialogue to have when you do an open house, what kind of dialogue to have when you call a seller, when you call a buyer, so on and so forth. And then the last book is called Story Brand. Story Brand is all about the message you're putting forward in your marketing, right? Understand that whenever you post something on your social media page, you're marketing yourself on social media. And you want to be able to put across a clear message, right? Story Brand is going to teach you how to really put forward a clear message of who you are, what you're looking for, and what you want the audience to do. So Story Brand is a really good book. So start with these books, and just continue learning, educating yourself, and attending as many trainings as possible, and you will get there, right? And just practice and make mistakes. The more mistakes you make, the better you're going to get, right? So, like I said, this is we're done with this. Does anyone want to share some prospecting methods that have worked well for them? I know, Ahmed, you just got into business. Okay, are you licensed? No. Ken shared networking. How do you usually find your networking events?
Well, before COVID, I would scour the internet, or I'll go to Meetup.
Yeah.
And look at things there. A lot of times I got invited, or I hold my own.
Yeah.
With other people. There's a few times where I ended up at things where I wasn't even invited to. One time, this guy posted. It's a club in Philly, but it's a business networking club, and it's like $10,000 a year for people to belong to.
Whoa.
And this guy posted to a friend, said, "Hey, I have an extra ticket. Let me know if you can make it." Or he put his phone number on there. So I called him up, and I'm like, "Hey, my name's Ken Murphy with National Integrity Title. I saw you had an extra ticket for that thing." I said, "Do you mind if I go?" And the guy was like, "What?" I didn't even know the guy. right? So he's like, nah, I got a friend of mine coming. I'm like, all right, thanks. Well, 2 hours later, he sends me a text message. Hey, if you really want to come to that thing, my buddy can't make it, so you can have the ticket.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right. So I met him over at this fancy place over in Philly, and you know, it ended up being really cool. It was like one of the professional boxers that was like from Philly. I can't remember his name. Bernard Hopkins.
Oh wow, yeah.
He showed up. You know, he does like real estate investing and stuff in Philly. You know, I got my picture taken with him and everything. You know, so it's just, and I enjoy that. I enjoy going out and meeting people. So it wasn't hard for me to do that, and I did that for a lot of things. I would walk into a place by myself and just, you know, walk around and talk to people. You know, end up, you know, later on having lunches and things like that to get that business from them. So that's why I'm more of a face-to-face kind of person. So that's why I really think that the networking is huge.
Yeah. I know you just got into the business as well. Have you done an open house before?
I have not.
Yeah. I would say, what about you, Faisal? What's working for you?
Nothing so far. I've just been with it for a month.
Okay, great.
I just started.
All right, very nice.
Yeah, I want to be in the open house as well as senior
Yeah.
houses. I want to have the experience and see.
Yeah. Well, I really push for the
how
open.
confident
Yeah.
myself.
I really push for the open house because again, it's free, right? And it's a good way to just get your feet wet, right? And it doesn't cost any money. So try to do as many open houses as possible. It's gonna teach you a lot of things, right? It's gonna teach you how to speak to people, how to handle objections, so on and so forth. Right? So the next time we do an open house, I'll let you know.
Okay.
You can probably tag along if you're available.
When I was a new agent, I was doing open houses every weekend. I was doing. They don't even do it anymore because they don't have anybody to sit in the office and answer phones.
Yeah.
It used to be called floor time. You know, so I'd sit on floor time and I'd answer the calls that come in. And if one was a lead, I got taken. You know, that way. But I was able to sustain my business for a while. But I really think that the network is like seeing that people will do business with somebody that they like and respect. And so when you get out there and you get to meet the people and start building rapport with them, your name's going to pop in their head when it comes time. You know, and it might not even be somebody who wants to sell. It might be just, oh yeah, you know, my friend, you know, Sammy is a realtor.
So now, like, I have my own business for 17 years. I'm very confident in what I'm doing right now. That's how confident I want to be
Right.
with the real estate. But you know, just to build that confidence, it's going to take just not much time, a little bit of time. But if I'm not confident in something, I don't want to throw myself out there. That's my personality.
Right. But so in this business, when I first started, I had kind of been out of the business for a couple of years, out of the networking, or, you know, out of being out and talking to people. So about a month into this business, I got mad. I had a nervous breakdown almost in my car because I was going to the office every day, and at one point, management said, "Okay, salespeople aren't allowed in the office anymore." And I was like, what am I going to do? Because it's the only place I feel